The sun had barely crested the jagged Afghan mountains, casting long, harsh shadows over the rocky terrain. Amid the quiet chaos of dawn, Marcus Luttrell adjusted the straps on his tactical vest, checking the seals on his rifle and the weight of his pack. Around him, his SEAL team moved with precise efficiency, scanning the slopes for any sign of movement. They appeared to be just another group of soldiers on a routine patrol, blending in with the world around them. Among them, whispers of normalcy floated through the morning air. The crunch of boots on gravel, the distant bleat of a goat, the soft, rhythmic breathing of men trained to stay calm under fire. But beneath the surface, Marcus could sense the tension rising like a storm cloud, quiet yet unstoppable. Then suddenly, the world erupted. Enemy fire rained down from every side, bullets chipping stone and sending splinters of rock into the air. The SEALs were surrounded, pinned against the uneven cliffs with no immediate escape route. The stakes were clear. If they failed, they would not make it out alive. Lives, years of training, and every mission they had undertaken hung in the balance. Panic tried to creep in, its sharp claws brushing against the edges of their minds, but discipline held. Still, even the most hardened men could not hide the flicker of fear in their eyes. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from. And if you love these stories, hit subscribe now. The next one will blow your mind, and it's even crazier. Shouts of disbelief echoed through the narrow canyon. "We're done for!" One SEAL muttered, his voice cracking under stress. Another threw up his hands, scanning the ridge that now bristled with armed foes. Even Marcus felt the weight of doubt pressing against his chest, the memory of a previous mission that went wrong replaying in his mind. Friends lost, plans shattered, confidence broken. He could almost taste the fear in his mouth, sharp and metallic, like the sweat on his brow. But then, a calm voice cut through the chaos. It was Emma Carter, barely 23, but already a decorated Marine sharpshooter. With a steady exhale, she admitted what the others hadn't known. "I've trained for this. I've been in worse spots, and I'm not letting this team fall." It wasn't arrogance. It was quiet determination. A hard-earned confidence from years spent in sniper schools, survival courses, and exercises that pushed human limits. Her gaze scanned the enemy positions, noting every ridge, boulder, and potential weak point. The buildup began. Every detail became magnified, almost painfully so. Emma adjusted the scope on her M40, noting the wind's direction, the heat haze rising from the rocks, the faint shimmer of sunlight on enemy rifles. Breath slowed. Fingers tensed on the trigger. Time stretched as she lined up the impossible shot, every heartbeat a drum of anticipation. Around her, the SEALs ducked behind cover, holding their collective breath as if her aim alone could change fate. Every second felt like a lifetime. The crack of distant gunfire and the whistle of passing bullets seemed louder, closer, and somehow slower in the tension-soaked air. Then, Emma exhaled and gently squeezed the trigger. The silence afterward was profound, a vacuum in which nothing seemed to exist except the faint echo of the bullet striking true. One enemy leader went down instantly, then another, like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. She moved her aim with surgical precision, covering weak points, buying precious seconds for the team below. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the tide shifted. The SEALs seized the moment, pressing forward as the enemy scrambled, disoriented by the sudden unseen sniper on the ridge. Against impossible odds, Emma's decisive action had changed the outcome of the battle. The aftermath was breathtaking. Marcus and the others watched in disbelief, relief washing over them in waves. Eyes wide, mouths open, they could barely comprehend the turn of events. She did that alone?" one whispered. "We wouldn't have made it otherwise." And yet, Emma remained calm, her posture steady despite adrenaline coursing through her veins. She lowered her rifle and simply said, "Someone had to." Humble, grounded, and quietly proud, she didn't seek praise or acknowledgement. The victory was shared in silence, felt in the steadying breaths and grateful glances between teammates. As the dust settled and the wounded were attended to, Marcus felt a renewed sense of respect for the courage of individuals who dared to act when the world seemed against them. He watched Emma moving among the SEALs, checking their gear, offering words of reassurance, a living embodiment of courage under fire. There was a lesson here far beyond the battle. Responsibility is heavy, but it must be borne. Limits are meant to be challenged, and belief in oneself can tip the scales even when everything seems lost. Emma's actions didn't just save lives, they sent a message that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, calculated, and relentless. She had stepped into the impossible, faced it with skill honed over years of dedication, and emerged victorious. The mountains echoed with the memory of her bravery, a reminder that even in the bleakest moments, one person's resolve can shift the course of events. Night fell over the ridge, and the once persistent enemy fire was reduced to sporadic echoes. The SEALs gathered, tending to wounds and checking ammunition, yet their minds kept returning to the sniper who had turned the impossible into survival. Marcus clapped a hand on Emma's shoulder, a rare smile breaking through his grim demeanor. "You kept us alive. You held your nerve when we couldn't." "I don't know how to thank you enough." Emma shook her head, brushing off the compliment. "Just trust yourself next time." "That's all that matters." Later, as the team made its way down the mountain under a blanket of darkness, the adrenaline began to fade, replaced by the sobering reality of what they had faced. Each step was a reminder of mortality, of the razor-thin margin between life and death. And yet, there was also an undeniable warmth, a feeling of unity and resilience that only comes from surviving together. Emma walked among them, silent but observant, a living testament to what focused courage could achieve. The story of that morning would be retold in mess halls and training rooms for years to come. New recruits would hear about the SEALs trapped on the Afghan ridge, surrounded with no hope, saved by a hidden sniper whose calm under pressure defied imagination. Emma's name would be spoken not with fanfare but with reverence, a quiet legend of precision, bravery, and humility. And the takeaway was clear. Courage isn't just about charging forward blindly. It's about taking responsibility, trusting your skills, and breaking through limits you once thought impossible. As dawn turned to day, the mountains seemed almost peaceful again, but Marcus and the others knew better. The ridge would always hold the memory of that impossible moment, of bullets whizzing past, of a sniper who refused to let fear dictate fate. In the end, it was a story about belief, in oneself, in one another, and in the idea that even the most dire circumstances can be rewritten by courage. Emma's actions had been decisive, but they were also a reminder that heroism comes in many forms. Sometimes it's the quiet, unseen figure on the ridge who changes everything. And as the SEALs disappeared into the valley below, leaving the ridge behind, there was a sense of something greater than survival. It was legacy. It was honor. It was a lesson in what it truly means to be brave, to rise above doubt, to act when others freeze, and to trust that your skill, your will, and your heart can alter fate itself. Emma Carter's hidden shot would forever echo in the minds of those who witnessed it, a story of courage, precision, and the undeniable power of one person determined to make a difference. The early morning sun cast an eerie glow over the Syrian desert, turning the sand into waves of gold and shadow. The Navy SEAL team had been moving in stealthily, their boots barely making a sound over the rough terrain. Among them, Lieutenant Michael Collins scanned the horizon, adjusting the straps on his tactical vest and checking his M4's sight. To any casual observer, they appeared to be just another group of soldiers on a routine patrol, blending in with the harsh, sun-baked environment. But beneath the calm, a storm was brewing, invisible yet imminent. Suddenly, chaos erupted. From the jagged ridges above, enemy fighters opened fire with precision, cutting through the SEALs' formation like a knife through silk. The team scrambled for cover behind rocks and scattered debris, but it was clear they were surrounded. The stakes were immediate and deadly. If they failed to respond, every member of the team would be captured or killed, and their mission would collapse in a matter of minutes. The SEALs exchanged rapid-fire commands, trying to find a safe exit, but the enemy's grip tightened with each passing second. Panic began to spread. Even among the highly trained SEALs, fear whispered in their ears. One of the newest recruits froze behind a boulder, wide-eyed and trembling. "We're done for," he whispered, voice barely audible over the crackle of gunfire. Another muttered about the impossibility of the situation, recalling missions where success had been the only option and failure unthinkable. Michael felt a heavy weight pressing down on him, memories of a failed operation in a different desert replaying in his mind. Friends lost, a plan shattered, and confidence questioned. The pressure threatened to suffocate him, yet he knew giving in to fear could mean the end. Then a calm, unwavering voice cut through the tension. It belonged to Corporal Sarah Thompson, a young but highly skilled sniper who had been quietly observing the enemy positions from afar. Her voice carried authority without arrogance. "I've got this," she said. "I've trained for worse. Stay low, stay sharp, and trust me." Her words were not meant to reassure the others. It was a declaration of readiness, a quiet confidence honed through countless hours in sniper schools, desert exercises, and live fire drills. Sarah's eyes scanned the ridges above, noting the tiniest movements, the glint of rifles in the morning sun, and the angles where a single well-placed shot could turn the tide. The tension built with each passing second. Every detail became magnified. Sarah adjusted her scope on the Barrett 50 cal, feeling the weight of the weapon balanced perfectly against her shoulder. The wind shifted slightly, carrying the faint scent of dust and gunpowder, and she calculated the effect it would have on her trajectory. Her pulse slowed, her breathing became measured, and every tiny movement of the enemy was recorded in her mind like a meticulous chess game. Around her, the SEALs crouched low, holding their breath, watching the impossible unfold as if time itself had slowed. Then, Sarah acted. One by one, she took precise, deadly shots, targeting the enemy's machine gun nests and key positions. Her aim was flawless, each bullet finding its mark with surgical precision. The enemy fell into disarray, confusion rippling through their ranks as the SEALs seized the opportunity to regroup. The impossible had become possible. From her hidden perch, Sarah's eyes never wavered from the ridges, her focus unbroken even as she reloaded, adjusted, and fired again. Every shot bought vital seconds, each one a lifeline for her team below. The SEALs moved cautiously, inspired by her actions, pushing forward under the cover she provided. Relief and disbelief washed over them as they realized the situation had turned in their favor. "She's incredible," Michael whispered, eyes wide, heart still racing. "We wouldn't be moving without her." Yet Sarah remained calm, methodical, her expression unreadable. She lowered her rifle and said simply, "I trusted my training." That's what mattered. There was no boasting, no triumphalism, just the quiet, resolute knowledge that she had done what needed to be done. As the firefight subsided, the team tended to the wounded and checked ammunition, grateful for the reprieve but aware that danger still lingered. The enemy forces were regrouping, but the advantage had shifted. Michael watched Sarah moving among the SEALs, offering brief nods and quiet guidance. She was the embodiment of courage under pressure, showing that leadership doesn't always need loud words or commanding gestures. Sometimes it is silent, skillful action that inspires the greatest trust. The lesson was clear. Courage isn't about fearlessness, but about acting in spite of fear. Sarah's calm determination had reminded the SEALs of the responsibility each soldier carries, the weight of every decision, and the importance of believing in one's own abilities. The mission, which had seemed on the brink of disaster, now had a fighting chance thanks to a single soldier's unwavering focus and skill. Limits could be broken when confidence met training, and even the most hopeless situation could be overturned with clarity of mind and courage of heart. Nightfall approached, painting the desert in muted blues and grays. The enemy had withdrawn into scattered pockets, disoriented and uncertain. The SEALs moved carefully through the terrain, carrying wounded and ensuring no one was left behind. Sarah stayed vigilant, scanning the horizon, her mind as sharp and alert as when the battle began. Though exhausted, she knew that vigilance was essential until they were safely out of range. In the quiet moments between the firefights, stories of her bravery began to spread among the team. Marcus, who had watched every moment from cover, approached her quietly. "You saved us all," he said, his voice low but filled with awe. Sarah shook her head, refusing any accolades. "I did my job. We all have to trust ourselves out here. That's the only way anyone survives." Her humility was as striking as her skill, a reminder that heroism often comes without fanfare, quietly performed where it matters most. The journey back to base was filled with reflection. Each SEAL considered the fragility of life and the power of one person to change outcomes when everything seemed lost. Sarah's actions had proven that even against impossible odds, courage, preparation, and belief in oneself could tip the balance. The mission's success wasn't just tactical, it was inspirational. It was proof that discipline and determination, applied precisely at the right moment, could save lives and transform despair into hope. As dawn broke the following day, the team recounted the events of the previous morning to one another, reinforcing lessons that could not be learned in any classroom. The ridge where Sarah had perched would forever hold the memory of that impossible moment, the echo of each perfectly placed shot lingering like a silent testament to bravery. The story would travel quietly through training halls and among fellow soldiers, a reminder that heroism is often unseen until it changes everything. Sarah Thompson, the young sniper who had remained hidden yet decisive, became more than a name among her peers. She became a symbol of courage, responsibility, and breaking limits. Her story taught that fear could be faced with preparation, that impossible odds could be overcome with skill, and that believing in oneself was not optional but essential in life and death situations. In the end, it was more than just a successful mission. It was a lesson in human potential, in the power of focused determination, and in the quiet heroism that turns the tide when all seems lost. The Navy SEALs had survived because one soldier had dared to act, not recklessly but wisely, strategically and bravely. And as the sun set on the Syrian desert, painting the sands in red and gold, the memory of that ridge and the sniper who saved her team would live on, inspiring courage wherever it was told. The story of that day would be retold for generations. Not to glorify war, but to highlight the strength of character, the importance of preparation, and the undeniable truth that one determined individual can make all the difference. Sarah's calm precision, bravery under fire, and unshakable belief in her training left an indelible mark, proving that courage is not always loud. It is measured, deliberate, and relentless. Her legacy would be one of hope, resilience, and the reminder that even when surrounded, victory is possible for those who trust themselves and their abilities. The night sky over Iraq was a blanket of black, pierced by the faint glint of stars and the distant hum of helicopter engines. Navy SEALs under Commander William McRaven were moving through the rubble-strewn outskirts of a hostile town, their boots crunching softly over broken concrete and twisted metal. To any onlooker, they appeared as just another tactical unit navigating dangerous terrain, blending seamlessly into the chaos of war. But the calm exterior belied the storm that was about to erupt, a storm that would test every ounce of training, courage, and resolve. Then, as if the universe itself had shifted, the enemy struck. From surrounding rooftops and alleyways, gunfire erupted, cutting through the night with terrifying accuracy. Explosions shook the ground, sending plumes of dust into the cold desert air. The SEALs were trapped, pinned against crumbling walls with no clear exit. The stakes were immediate and deadly. If they failed to respond, every man on the team would die, and the mission, crucial to intelligence gathering and local stability, would end in disaster. Panic threatened to rise, but discipline and years of training kept the team moving, even under the weight of imminent death. Shouts and cries of disbelief rose around them. "We're done for!" a young SEAL whispered, ducking behind a toppled wall. Another scanned the shadows, shaking his head at the impossibility of the situation. Commander McRaven felt the familiar knot of doubt tighten in his chest, the memory of a failed nighttime raid years before flashing through his mind. Friends lost, plans gone wrong, confidence shaken. The pressure was suffocating. Survival seemed improbable. Then, from the shadows of the ridged rooftops, a single calm voice cut through the chaos. Lieutenant Jessica Hall, a sniper who had been stationed in a concealed position since before the SEALs entered the town, spoke with quiet authority. "I've got this," she said. There was no arrogance in her tone, only a steady, determined resolve born of countless hours in sniper schools and survival exercises. "Stay low, stay covered, and trust me." She had already calculated the angles, the trajectory, the distance, and the wind. Every variable mattered. Every second was life or death. The tension built to an almost unbearable pitch. Jessica adjusted her MK-13 rifle, the weight perfectly balanced against her shoulder. She scanned the rooftops, the alleyways, the faint glint of enemy rifles reflecting the starry night. Her breathing slowed as she focused, measuring each subtle shift in the environment, the sway of a rooftop antenna, the reflection off a shard of glass, the faint whisper of wind carrying sand and dust. Around her, the SEALs crouched, frozen yet trusting, watching as she prepared to perform the impossible. Time seemed to stretch into eternity as she lined up the first shot. Then, Jessica fired. The silence that followed was absolute, punctuated only by the soft impact of the bullet finding its mark. One enemy operative went down instantly, followed by another and another. Each shot was precise, eliminating key targets and throwing the enemy into confusion. Her calm, calculated action bought the SEALs vital seconds to regroup, reposition, and strike back. With every shot, the tide shifted, the impossible began to crumble, and the SEALs found themselves inching toward safety. Jessica didn't pause. She moved fluidly, adjusting her aim, taking out machine gun nests and leadership positions, her fingers steady, her mind focused. Each pull of the trigger was deliberate, a demonstration of skill, patience, and courage honed over years of preparation. The SEALs, inspired by her actions, began to advance, pushing back against an enemy that had initially seemed unstoppable. The impossible odds that had hung over them like a dark cloud were now beginning to dissipate. The aftermath was breathtaking. Commander McRaven and his men could scarcely believe what they had witnessed. Eyes wide, hearts still racing, they scanned the rooftops, searching for the sniper who had turned the tide. She saved us all," one whispered, voice filled with awe. But Jessica remained composed, lowering her rifle and stating simply, "I trusted my training." There was no need for celebration, no grand gestures. Her humility was as pronounced as her courage, a reminder that heroism is often quiet and unseen until it matters most. As the night wore on and enemy activity diminished, the SEALs tended to wounds and checked ammunition, still amazed at how a single individual had altered the outcome of an entire battle. Jessica moved among the team, offering guidance and quiet reassurances. She exemplified that courage isn't about loud declarations or reckless heroics. It's about precise action when the moment demands it, responsibility accepted without hesitation, and the willingness to trust oneself under extreme pressure. The experience was a profound lesson in human potential. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the face of fear. Jessica's calm, focused determination had reminded the SEALs of the importance of preparation, responsibility, and belief in their own abilities. Against impossible odds, one person's unwavering commitment had shifted the balance between life and death. Limits could be broken when courage met preparation, and even the direst circumstances could be overcome when skill, focus, and resolve converged. By dawn, the town had quieted. The enemy had retreated, disorganized and shaken by the unexpected precision of a hidden sniper. The SEALs moved carefully through the streets, carrying wounded and ensuring no one was left behind. Jessica remained vigilant, scanning the area even as exhaustion threatened to overtake her. She knew survival depended not just on action but on continued awareness until every threat was neutralized. Later, as the team gathered in a secure location, the story of her bravery began to spread. Commander McRaven approached her quietly. "You kept us alive," he said, voice low, eyes reflecting both admiration and disbelief. Jessica shook her head, brushing off the praise. "I did what had to be done. You all have to trust yourselves out here. That's the only way anyone survives." Her humility stood in stark contrast to her lethal skill. underscoring that true heroism is often performed without the need for recognition. The journey back to base was filled with reflection. Each SEAL thought about the fragility of life and the power of one determined individual to alter events. Jessica's actions had demonstrated that courage, preparation, and self-belief could turn an impossible situation into survival. The mission's success was more than tactical. It was inspirational. It proved that discipline, training, and precise execution could tip the scales, even when hope seemed lost. As the sun rose over the desert, painting the horizon in shades of red and gold, the ridge from which Jessica had operated became a symbol of bravery. The memory of each perfectly placed shot lingered in the minds of those who had witnessed it, a silent testament to skill, patience, and courage. Stories of that night would be told for years to come, not to glorify war, but to inspire belief in one's abilities, the importance of preparation, and the impact of focused determination. Jessica Hall, the hidden sniper, became more than a name among her peers. She became a legend, an example of courage under fire, responsibility embraced, and limits broken. The lessons she imparted extended far beyond the battlefield. Fear can be managed, impossible odds can be overcome, and belief in oneself is essential when the stakes are life and death. Her actions had not only saved her team, but had also demonstrated the potential of human resolve in extreme conditions. Even as the SEALs disappeared into the distance, leaving the ridge and the town behind, the legacy of that night remained. The memory of precise shots, calculated risks, and quiet heroism would echo in training halls, mess halls, and future missions. Jessica's calm, decisive actions proved that courage is not always loud. It is measured, deliberate, and relentless. Her story would inspire others to act when fear threatens to freeze them, to trust their skills, and to recognize that one individual's determination can change the course of events. By the end of the mission, the SEALs had learned more than the value of skill or teamwork. They had learned about courage, responsibility, and belief in oneself. Jessica Hall had turned an impossible situation into survival through patience, precision, and unwavering focus. Her legacy would endure, a constant reminder that even when surrounded by danger, one person's courage could shift the balance, proving that heroism is often quiet, unseen, and immeasurably powerful. As the desert settled into its midday heat, the memory of that night lingered in every shadow and ridge. Each SEAL carried the lesson forward, that fear is natural, but action in spite of it defines true bravery. That preparation and trust in oneself can tip the scales. That one person, acting with calm determination and skill, can save many lives and leave a lasting mark. Jessica Hall's hidden actions had achieved exactly that, turning a potentially catastrophic ambush into a story of survival, courage, and enduring human spirit. The story of that night would travel far beyond the battlefield. Retold for generations of soldiers, scouts, and leaders, it was a story of courage under pressure, of responsibility embraced, and of limits broken through skill, focus, and self-belief. The Navy SEALs had survived, not just because of training or teamwork, but because one determined sniper had refused to let fear dictate her actions. Her legacy became an enduring lesson. Courage is quiet, precise, and relentless, and it can turn the impossible into reality.